Ladies and gentlemen, I've been meaning to update for a while now. I know I don't do it frequently, but I mean to talk about the upcoming Canadian election happening today, actually, make my predictions and tell you what I think. But yesterday night, something far more important popped up late into the night. On September 11th, 2001, a terrorist group known as Al-Qaida hijacked 4 airplanes across the United States with the intent to fly them into buildings in what became known as the 9/11 terrorist attacks. 2 planes in New York City crashed into the World Trade Centers known as the Twin Towers. 1 plane in Washington, D.C. crashed into the Pentagon. Another plane was brought down by the passengers somewhere in Pennsylvania. Over 3,000 people were killed that day, and it was orchestrated by the man behind Al-Qaida named Osama Bin Laden. This plunged the world into a war against terrorism, a very hard to define foe here, because it's not a specific country that people were at war against. They were really at war against Osama Bin Laden, and later encompassing the US went to war with specifically Iraq to get rid of the Taliban. Soon after going to war with the Taliban, well, relatively soon in comparison, the US captured Saddam Hussein and executed him by hanging. Yet Osama Bin Laden, the mastermind behind the true 9/11 attacks, remained at large, and the US had no clue where he was. Yesterday, a group of US Special Forces found Osama Bin Laden in Pakistan and shot him. Nearly 10 years after 9/11 attacks, Osama Bin Laden has finally been apprehended, and justice has come. Unfortunately, this cannot bring back the some 3,000 people that were killed during the 9/11 attacks. And this is by far nowhere near appropriate compensation. Nothing ever will be appropriate compensation to those families who lost loved ones during that attack. But at least now we can rest a little bit easier, knowing that the mastermind behind these attacks is dead, and that hopefully now others like it will not follow. Hopefully now this will mark the beginning of the end on the war on terror. Hopefully soon we can help build proper, stable governments in Afghanistan and Iraq. Hopefully soon we will help to lower the Taliban and Al-Qaeda presence there. And hopefully soon we can bring our troops home. During the assault on this compound in Pakistan, no Americans were harmed in a firefight that broke out between Al-Qaeda troops and the US Special Forces. And Osama Bin Laden's body was buried at sea because they wanted to respect his religious practices and bury his body within 24 hours of its death. Ladies and gentlemen, the most wanted man in the world has finally been apprehended. And hopefully now the world can rest a little bit easier. Hopefully this will mark the beginning of the end of an era not just of war on terrorism, but of fear and of paranoia because of the war on terrorism. Now, as I said, I wanted to make some predictions about the Canadian election, and because it's not over yet, I'm going to drop them now, and hopefully sometime either tomorrow or within the next week, do a summary of the election and summary of the results, explain the Canadian electoral system, possibly. But what I predict happening is I predict yet another conservative minority government with an NDP official opposition. Originally I was going to go with Bloc Québécois, but after recent polls in Quebec, I'm going to have to rethink that to NDP. The Liberals will lose a significant amount of seats, but they won't be hurt as hard as the Bloc Québécois, who may even lose official party status. And I predict Green Party will actually get a seat in the election. Thank you for tuning in. I am F10 Crazy, and I hope to make another one of these sometime soon.